So from our previous videos, we have already installed a web browser, Chrome, and a text editor, VS Code. We begin by learning what is HTML. HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. You don't have to worry about what that means right now. Just know it is a tool that we use to create websites. Every website from YouTube to Google to Amazon uses a combination of HTML and CSS to create everything that we see on the website. The easiest way to understand what is HTML, we are simply giving instructions to a computer. We are telling the computer what to do step by step. The computer will then follow our instructions to create our website. So I find the best way to learn HTML is to jump in and give it a try. So we are going to create our first HTML file and our first website. Let's go to our computer and we are going to create a new folder. So this folder is going to contain all the code for this course. I am going to call this folder HTML-CSS-course. Next, we are going to open our folder in the VS Code. Then I'm going to click on File Open. I'm going to find the folder that we have just created. Once that is open, you should see the folder name up here and on the side here. Now let's create our first HTML file. We are going to press this new file icon to create a new file. And we are going to call this file index.html. We have to make sure this file ends with .html. This tells a computer that this file contains HTML code rather than a blank text. So, as I mentioned, HTML is basically some instructions you give to the computer. We are going to learn our first instruction, which is less than, button, greater than, and we also have to type greater than slash button. So this is an instruction to create a button. And inside the button, we are going to have the text hello. And let's save our file. And we are going to learn how to open this in our web browser. To open our website, we are going to go to the folder that contains our code. We are going to find our HTML file. We right click on it and open with Google Chrome. And now you can see our first website that has a button with a text hello. And if we look back to our code, that's the exact instruction that we gave to the computer. So as you can see, HTML is pretty straightforward. It is easy to understand what's going on. Now let's try another instruction. We can give to the computer on a new line. We are going to type less than P greater than, and then we also need to type less than slash P greater than. And our code editor might complete this for us. The P here stands for a paragraph. Inside the P, we put some text like paragraph of text. We can save this, and to get our website to reflect our most recent code, we are going to go to our website. We are going to go to our web page and we refresh. And now you can see that our website is displaying a paragraph of text, just as we told the computer to do. So basically, that's how HTML works. Our computer reads the code from top to bottom and then follows those instructions and creates a button and a paragraph of text. If we reverse the order of these lines, for example, if I put a paragraph up here first and I save it and then refresh the page, then the paragraph will appear on top, because again the computer is just following our instructions one by one. Now I'm going to introduce some terminology. So each of these things that we are displaying on a web page is called an HTML element. So a button is a type of an HTML element, and a paragraph is another type of HTML element. Element is just a generic term that we use to describe anything that we can display on a web page. And we are going to be using this term element throughout this course. So I want to explain why we had to write all symbols: the less than, the greater than, the slash, and this is something called syntax. Syntax are the rules for how a coding language like HTML should be written. If you think of this as a language like English, we have something called grammar, which is the rules of the language. Syntax is basically the same thing, except for coding languages. Now the biggest thing between a language like English and a coding language is that in English you don't have to follow rules of grammar perfectly. People can still understand you. But in a coding language, if you don't follow the rules of the syntax, the computer won't understand your code. For example, let's break the rules of syntax by deleting this greater than symbol. And we save our file, and we are going to our website and reload the page. And now you notice that our button is gone. And that's because we are not following the proper syntax. So the computer doesn't understand our HTML code anymore. So let's put the greater than sign back so that we follow the proper syntax. So let's save and then refresh the page, and now our button appears again. So what exactly are syntax rules for HTML? This part of the code is called an HTML tag. It basically tells the computer what we are trying to create. Every tag is composed of two parts: the opening tag and the closing tag. The closing tag is same as the opening tag, except that it has a slash in front of its tag name. You can think of the opening tag as the start of the button and the closing tag as the end of the button, and in between as the text inside the button. And the same thing for the paragraph. The paragraph has the opening tag, a closing tag, and some content inside it. So long as we follow these rules, the computer will always display these elements correctly on the web page. So the next element we are going to learn is a link to another website. For example, if we go to Google and search something, it will give us a bunch of links. And if we click on these links, it will take us on another website. So we will learn how to do that in our HTML code. So let's go back to our website. In our code, let's type a less than, a greater than. This a here represents an anchor element. An anchor is a link to another website. So inside the anchor tag, we are going to put the text of our link. Go to YouTube. We are going to save this and refresh the page, and now we have a link, but when we click, it does not take us to YouTube. This is because we haven't told the computer where this link is supposed to take us. Right now, we have a link without a destination. So to set a link to an anchor tag, we have to learn a little bit more of the HTML syntax. So on the anchor tag, we will type space, href, equal signs, then double quotes. Inside the double quotes, we will copy the YouTube website link and paste it in there. So to do that, go to the browser and type youtube.com. So on top here, we have the URL or the link. So right click and copy the link and paste it into our double quotes. Save the file and then reload the page. And now we have a link we can click. So when we click this link, it takes us to youtube.com. So that's how we create a link to another website with HTML. So let's go back to our code and we explain what this syntax means. So this is called an HTML attribute. An attribute basically modifies how an element behaves. In this example, we are looking at href attribute, and it determines where this link element will take us when you click it. Right now it is going to youtube.com, but if you change this, it will take you to a different website. So this attribute modifies how the link element behaves. So the syntax rule for HTML attributes are: we have to add a space between an anchor tag and the tag name. Otherwise, if we don't add the space, the browser is going to think that this whole thing is a tag name. That's why we have to add a space. Then we have equal signs and double quotes. This text that is on the left of equal signs, it is called attribute name. And on the right side of the equal signs, it is called an attribute value. The attribute value must be surrounded by double quotes. The attribute tells us what we are modifying, and the attribute name tells us what we are modifying it to. For example, youtube.com. We can also have multiple attributes on an element. To add another attribute, separate it with a space like this. We are going to add another attribute to this link, and this one is called target. The target attribute determines whether the link opens in the current page or in a new tab. So by default, if you don't add the target attribute, the link will open in the current tab like this. But if we set the target to underscore blank, now this anchor element will open in a new tab. So when we click on the link, it will open in a new tab. Keep it in mind that href and target attributes only work on an anchor element. The P element and the button element have their own attributes that we will be learning throughout this course. For now, I wanted to introduce to you the idea of using attributes to modify HTML elements. Next, we will look at the HTML structure